All right, let's jump right into this explainer with a pretty provocative question. When you picture the absolute most dangerous weapon in nature, what immediately comes to mind? Are you thinking about the bone-crushing bite force of a crocodile? Maybe the razor-sharp claws of a big cat? Or is it something else entirely?
See, we've all kind of been sold this classic survival of the fittest myth, right? The one where the solitary apex predator rules supreme. We constantly picture the lone wolf or the solitary tiger dominating the landscape through pure muscular strength and aggression. But I want you to contrast that with an entirely different strategy today. What if the ultimate biological shield, literally the most impregnable defense on the entire planet, isn't built from bone or muscle at all, but from sheer numbers?
So, welcome to the explainer. Today we are talking about the ultimate biological shield, why herd numbers save lives. We are going to completely flip how you think about power in the natural world.
To really wrap our heads around this, I want to drop you right onto the dusty plains of the Masai Mara. Picture this, a staggering 1.5 million wildebeest. When the Great Migration kicks off, from above it doesn't even look like individual animals. It looks like a single massive creature breathing and flowing across the earth. Now, an adult wildebeest is no joke. It weighs up to 550 pounds and can sprint at 50 miles an hour. But its real strength, it doesn't lie in its speed, it lies right in that massive, overwhelming number.
This brings us to a really fascinating concept called the dilution of risk. Think of it as the passive math of survival. A wild beast doesn't migrate out of some sense of deep courage. It migrates because standing still or standing alone is a literal death sentence. When 1.5 million animals move together, the mathematical odds of any single individual being taken by a predator in a given hour drop to almost zero. They didn't evolve to fight better, they evolved to never, ever stand alone.
And hey, just to prove how undeniably powerful numbers are, let's flip the script for a second and look at the predators. The African lion is actually the only big cat that lives in an organized group. When a lion hunts by itself, its success rate hovers somewhere around 15 to 20%. But when they team up and hunt as a pride, their success rate literally doubles to 30 to 40%. Organization doesn't just save the prey, it doubles the lethal efficiency of apex predators.
But of course, the prey have their own counter-strategy. They don't just rely on passive math. They use active communication. Enter swarm intelligence. A herd of 500,000 animals isn't just a random crowd. It operates as a highly sensitive single biological entity. When one single animal at the very edge of the herd catches the scent of a lion, that flinch, that alarm, the exact direction of flight, it ripples through thousands of bodies instantly. It's like a giant flawless game of telephone, and the entire plane knows the hunter's position in a matter of seconds.
Let's bounce across the globe to the freezing heights of the Andes to see another totally brilliant layer to this. Meet the guanaco. They're these massive survivors out in the barren Puna grassland, and they use incredible herd discipline to survive the stealthy puma. They've essentially built an impenetrable surveillance network. They always have designated sentries standing up on the rocks. These sentries aren't feeding, they are just patiently keeping watch. One sharp alarm call and boom, the entire herd flees at the exact same time.
And get this, it brilliantly crosses species lines too. Back in Africa, the wildebeest and the zebra share this crazy, unwitting farming synergy. Zebras have guts that can process really coarse, tall grass. So by eating it, they naturally expose the soft young growth hiding underneath, which is exactly what the wildebeest eats to survive. But it gets better. They actually combine their senses. Zebras bring excellent color vision to spot movement, while wildebeest bring incredible hearing and the ability to smell a predator from 500 yards downwind. Together, they form this totally flawless multi-species early warning system.
Okay, but what happens when the herd simply can't run away? Let's escalate the tension here and look at the absolute climax of this biological arms race, the weaponized herd.
Before we can really appreciate a herd attack, we have to understand the limits of individual courage. Take the gemsbuck in the Kalahari Desert. It is a beautiful, brave, solitary antelope with these 4-foot spear-like horns, and it absolutely refuses to run. It will fiercely stand its ground against a full-grown lioness. But the hard truth of the wild is captured by one harsh reality. No matter how perfect a warrior you are, the solitary fighter must eventually fall before the overwhelming weight of an organized pack's numbers. Pure courage just isn't enough.
Which brings us to the African Cape buffalo. And honestly, the way they handle this is straight out of an intense action movie. When a lion pride pins down a lone buffalo, a distress call goes out. Now, most herbivores would just run the other way, right? Not the Cape buffalo. They execute what researchers literally call the rescue. The call echoes out and instantly the entire herd shifts state.
They go from a peaceful grazing assembly into an absolute army in seconds. Then, these massive bulls, weighing up to 2,000 pounds each, surge forward, the ground shaking, to directly counterattack the lions and force them to drop their prey.
And here's the absolute wildest part. They don't just act in self-defense. There are actual records of Cape buffalo deliberately hunting down the predators that attack them. They weaponize their collective mass to literally crush the threat. A tightly formed buffalo herd in broad daylight is so incredibly formidable that lions almost never even dare to attack it.
Now, let's totally shift gears and head to the frozen Arctic to see a completely different kind of strategy. Just consider this staggering number for a second: 3,500 miles. The caribou undertake this endless 800-mile overland migration just to find food and survive the winter. But they're constantly shadowed by gray wolves. In order to keep up with this massive, self-renewing, constantly moving herd, a single gray wolf has been tracked traveling up to 3,500 to 4,500 miles. The caribou's collective defense is just relentless movement. They just keep filling the tundra faster than the wolves could ever possibly diminish them.
So, we've seen massive mammals use numbers to survive plains, deserts, and the frozen tundra. Let's head down to the Amazon rainforest to explore the real power of organization, where we see tactical units on a microscopic and aquatic scale.
Down beneath the Amazon floor lies a literal empire. A single leafcutter ant colony can hold up to 8 million individuals, and they function flawlessly as a single body. There's no central brain, no boss barking verbal commands. Instead, they use chemical pheromone trails to instantly coordinate hundreds of thousands of ants. They act as nature's original farmers, harvesting leaves to grow underground fungus. It is a perfect biological machine operating with 8 million moving parts.
And in the rivers right above them, we see this coordination weaponized yet again. Compare the giant otter, which weighs around 75 pounds, against the massive black caiman. That is the largest predator in the entire Amazon basin, easily reaching 20 feet in length. On paper, the caiman wins that fight every single time, but giant otters do not fight alone. A coordinated squad of 20 highly vocal, perfectly synchronized otters will actually surround a black caiman, lunging and biting from multiple directions to create total chaos. They literally force this massive, ancient predator into retreat.
Which honestly brings us to the ultimate takeaway of our journey across all these different ecosystems today. It's beautifully summarized by this simple truth. Strength does not reside in size, it resides in organization. From the microscopic ants of the Amazon to the thunderous wildebeest of the Mara, nature proves time and time again that the collective will always defeat the individual.
So, let's bring this all back home to you. Nature's ultimate survival lessons mirror our own human strategies perfectly. First, solitude often equals vulnerability. When you build a strong team, you create your own mathematical shield. Second, when you collaborate, those shared senses and diverse perspectives multiply your awareness, just like the zebra and the wildebeest helping each other out. And finally, when you face an insurmountable challenge, a coordinated, disciplined defense will always overpower solitary brute force. I want to leave you with this final, empowering question to chew on today. If the fastest, deadliest, and most heavily armored predators on Earth have to yield to the pure power of organization, how can you weaponize your own herd to conquer your biggest challenges? Take a good look around at your team, your community, your network. Your greatest strength isn't just you, it's who you stand beside. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.